Hello explorers and welcome to another video. Today we are going to talk about Promtail and Loki. I'm excited to tell you that I partnered up with Code Combat to bring your kid a learning opportunity. Back in my day, there were no one that could tutor me, I knew more than the teachers, and I had to put in the work because there were no other option. Unlock your child's coding potential with Code Combat's live online classes. The classes are led by experts who make learning an exciting and rewarding experience. With their help, your child will work through coding challenges and feel proud of their accomplishments. Personal attention and a structured curriculum will help your child become a confident coder. I always said that I hope that you learned something today, and now your kid can. Follow the link in the description and enter the promo code EXPLORER10 at checkout for a 10% discount, and all subscriptions have a 30-day money-back guarantee. In Ceph, you have a bunch of different services that work for different tasks and handles different use cases for you. And in this case, Promtail and Loki is something that was added pretty recently. It was showing up on the blog in December or something like that of 2022. So I'm gonna look into how to set it up in Ceph. And there is a suggested way to do it with the Ceph admin if you are using the administrative console and so on. And it is a viable option, but I know that there isn't that many that uses it yet. When we did a short checkup on the Cephlacon attendance, then we saw there was about 20% that had switched over already. And if you're having a lot of hosts, then it's a very good way to manage your hosts going forward. But when you just have a couple, or if you want more control, then I have suggested recently that we should use the old way of installing it manually. You will get updates as soon as the distributor of your operating system will package it, and it will be a smoother process for you. You have all the logs locally, but what Promtail and Loki will do is actually visualize your logs in Ceph from all your hosts. So that is what we're going to look into today. If we switch over to my screen here, we can see a Ceph cluster with 4 hosts, 4 OSDs, 3 monitors, 3 managers. So nothing really extra. I haven't even set up any file system or anything on this. So this is bare bone, just what you need in order to set up this setup. And if we look at hosts, for instance, we have this set up for Grafana, so we can get some statistics around what's happening on the machine. And that is important that we already have Prometheus and Grafana set up, and I have a video about that, how to set up this and get it to work in your interface here. So I'm starting from this point where I have it already set up. So watch the other video to figure out how to set it up. The difference from that video to this video is that I actually used the packaged Prometheus and Prometheus node exporter that is packages in the system, and that works just fine. You don't need to download them. The enterprise version of Grafana is still something that you need to download as a package and install. And today we are going to install more Grafana packages. And Loki and Promtail are other Grafana packages. Those are also something that we need to download and install manually. There are not really any packaging for those in at least Debian. So let's switch over to my console here. And here I have a working directory for Loki. And in here I have a couple of files. So first we look at the Loki YAML file. So this is the configuration for Loki. And Loki is pretty much a way of gathering your logs. So you have these Promtail that is tailing your logs and then sending the information to Loki that will actually take the logs and make them into something that Grafana then can query later on using a query language. So what we set up here is that we don't need any authentication. We will listen to the port 2100, and we have a GPCR listen port also at 9096. And then we have our instance address, which is the IP of this specific host that I'm going to install it on. A couple of paths where it will store information. and I'm using an in-memory store. There is configurations for databases and so on that you can set up instead, but I'm just using the absolute quickest, simplest installation now for this feature. And then we have a query range that we set up, and a schema configuration for our file system, and where our alert manager is. And in this case, I installed the alert manager and everything on this specific host. So I have everything in the same host, so you can have different setup there, of course. So that's the Loki. And if we look at the Promtail configuration, it's not that different. It has a server that listens on port 9080. We have a positions YAML that is stored in the temp directory. We have where we should send the information, so it actually will push to Loki, the Loki API, on the same IP here. So you could probably set localhost, because no, we can't do that because Promtail will be installed on all the different hosts. So all the different hosts will have a Promtail, but just the N4 in my case will have Loki. And then we have a scraping configuration here. We have a job name for that. The static configuration target is the local host. And then we run this job, where I just gave it a name, Ceph logs. We will see that later when we query, so we can query for Ceph logs. And then you say a path, and in this case I want everything in var/log/Ceph, and then all log files there. So it will send me all the information from that directory, which means that I can actually see all the log files at one time. We also have a Loki service file, and this is to set up the service locally. It has a description, restart on failure, will run as root. Loki could be run as whatever user you want, but of course the Promtail needs to be run with a user that actually have access to the data locally. And then we will start it with the config file, and I will put these Loki and Promtail YAML files in the Grafana etc directory, so they will find them there. And the Promtail is very similar, the service. It has exactly the same. The difference is that we're running the Promtail instead. And I will put them into USR bin local, both of those executables. So what I will do now is that I will push all of these files over to node 4. So I have them there, SCP over them. And then I will SCP the Promtail configuration over to the other 3 hosts. So now I have the Promtail configuration on the 3 first host, and I will have the Loki and Promtail configuration on the 4th host. So let's go to the 4th host and fetch Promtail and the Loki installation. And these can be found on the Grafana GitHub Loki releases, and then download, and then a specific version. And in this case we take 2.8.1, download those two, and we will get to zip files, and we unzip those and just get to 2 executables there. After I've done that, I will set up the Loki. So first off, I will ensure that I have the Grafana directory. On this system I will have it. Then I will copy over the 2 configuration files to the Grafana directory, so local YAML and Promtail YAML. And I will copy over the 2 executables to USR local bin, Loki and Promtail. And I will copy the services into systemd system, so those are available. After I've done that, I will set up the system control daemon, so I will reload that. That means that I will have the Promtail service, so I can start it, enable it, and then I check that it's actually up and running. And I can do the same for Loki. So this is just a way for me to package them up as services and ensure that they are starting when the machine is starting up. Otherwise you can run them just manually. But I think it's important for me at least to have them as services. So I will do the same on node 1, but in this case I will only set up Promtail. So let's run get and unzip it, and then make that directory for Grafana, copy the executable to USR local bin, copy the YAML file to Grafana and the service to the systemd system, And after I've done that, I should be able to set up, reload this daemon and start the Promtail service. So let's do the same on host 2. And I will do this a little bit quicker. So I will copy the whole script over there. It's just a matter of doing it more efficiently. And let's do it on host 3 as well. So I will have all the hosts set up and make them push to Grafana. So now that we have that, we can switch over to my screen here and we can go into Grafana. And here we can see that we have a bunch of different dashboards that we can look at here with all the information. But under the Explore tab here, I only have the default setup, only the default dashboard data source. I need one more data source here, and I will set up a Loki data source. I go to data sources, I add a new data source, I add a Loki data source, and what I need here is actually to write exactly what it says in this field here. So I want the local host 31100 because on this specific Grafana host I have the Loki installation as well. So I just specify the URL to that host. And other than that, I don't really need to set up anything else. I can save and test it, and the database data source is updated. If I go over here and look at Loki, I can browse Loki. I can click on Ceph logs, for instance, show logs. And here, if I want, I can go live. And then down here we see the live transactions in my logs. Let's see how we do in Ceph then. So we go over here, we look into logs, and we have daemon logs here. And this is the place where those should be shown. And we go to that, and we see that we don't have them. Okay, so what is this all about? The Loki and Promtail service is not running. Please start the Loki and Promtail service and to see these logs. What it actually is saying is that use Ceph admin as your orchestrator and install them as a service. And we see here that the orchestrator is not installed, it's not set up, so we don't have those services, and we can't set up the Loki service at the moment. So my solution to this was to actually change the code. Because there is actually no restriction to run this. I just wanted to see, can I get it up and running? So if you look here, here is a setup for this front end. And currently we have two files. We have the logs file and the Grafana component is where I've made changes. I actually only need to do a change in this log component. I don't need to change the Grafana if I don't want to. But I will show you the small changes that I've made. So in this daemons logs here, there is something that looks at Grafana and goes to the Explore tab and sends a bunch of things over to that, a bunch of different parameters over to that. But most of the parameters doesn't really do anything. But if you have these two if statements up here, it will show this daemon logs template, and that is at the bottom of the file, and it's just showing this error message. So the if statement says either show this container here with the Grafana or show this error message. And the only thing it looks for is the Promtail and the Loki service here. And as I don't have them, I can't have them. So I just remove these two if statements. That is the only thing that is required to be done. Moreover, what I did is that I went in here and added an extra if statement around the first prime ticker here. So we have a Grafana time picker that will pick the range that we want to show in Grafana. And as these are logs, I could either say if it's not logs, then show this time picker. But in this case, it's either metrics or logs. So I say if type is metrics, then don't show this time picker, otherwise don't. So if we look further up here, so for this CD Grafana, it actually sends in as the same as this path. It sends in the parameter type logs. So that's the only thing I did here in order to remove this time picker. You could keep it, of course, but then you will get a time picker here. So it will be very similar to this host here, where you have a Grafana time picker and a drop down like this, and this reload button and so on. And I didn't see that this added anything extra to the actual visual GUI. So now we are running on host 35. This needs to be done on all the hosts, of course. But after I have run the build process, so I just run npm install on this side, and then npm build. And when I've run those two commands, I will have this dist directory, which I will zip down. I will zip down into dist1 and dist2. The reason I did dist2 was that I didn't get the update actually at some point. So I just changed the file name to ensure that it actually packaged the files again without any caching or anything like that. So I will send this dist2 package over to host 35. And then we will see here, I think this is 35, this host. It is. So what I need to do now is go into var share, USR shared Ceph manager dashboard frontend. So here is the frontend for this specific system, and I will sudo mc here, and it doesn't have mc. So what we need to do then is to install mc like that. So mc is Midnight Commander, very good thing to just handle files. So I will sudo that up. I will go to my home directory, and here I have this dist2 package that we created earlier, and in here I have all the files that is running in the interface. So I will pretty much just replace my dashboard now. And when I've run that, if we go back to my dashboard again, we should have a running Ceph dashboard with the new code. And if I go into my cluster configuration logs here, we see our Grafana interface here. But we don't see the Explore window here. So why doesn't we do that? Grafana is running in a mode where it's anonymous. We are not logged in at the moment to Grafana. So that's why we can't see the Explore tab. It's only available for the logged in users. So if we switch back to my installation here, and we go to host 4 again. So I will log out here from here and go into host 4. My solution to this was to go into etc Grafana and then Grafana ini, and permission denied. So let's go in as a super user instead. So here we have all the configuration for Grafana, and if I search for viewer, I will find as the third option here, organization role viewer for the anonymous login. And what I can do here, it's probably not the absolute best solution to this, but if I change this to editor, so an editor is someone that can change data, can't remove data sources or handle anything like that, but it can change data. So there are 3 options. You are either an administrator, editor, or viewer. So if I change the role for the anonymous user to editor, and then I commit that, and then sudo system ctl status Grafana server. That's running. Let's restart it. And we see that it's up and running again. If I go here and reload, we should see the Explorer instead. So now we have the actual right to see the Explorer, and because of that it's jumped into there. And it shows the last hour. And in the code at the moment, it's hard-coded to go to last hour. If we had the time date picker, did some small code changes to actually send that information in correctly, we could have changed the last hour up here with that drop down. But I don't really see why we would have a drop down that changes the value of another drop down. Not really necessary. So it will already show Loki here. We can see the Grafana dashboard as well if you want. So we have all those options. We go into log browser. We can choose all the log files or just one log file if we want that. And then show logs. We can go live. And now we will see all the logs in our system inside of our dashboards flowing by, and we can see if there is any issues, and we can go down, look at information that happened a couple of days ago, or we can look at the information that happening right now in order to debug, find issues with our Ceph cluster, or just be aware of what is going on. So this was what I wanted to show you today. I hope that you found this interesting. I will make a video about setting up a Ceph admin as well and how to handle this in the orchestrated way. But that is for a different video. This was what I wanted to cover today. I hope that you found this interesting. I hope that you liked this video. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave them down in the comment section down below. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. And I really hope to see you in the next video.